All right, so welcome everyone. It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning.
I knew there's something wrong. All right, it's a pleasure to have all of you here. So, new month, but we are still studying the same theme for the last month. That is in Jesus' arms. We are studying the parables, and today you have Marcos talking about the Samaritan. But before we do that, I'll invite Joyce to do the initial reading in prayer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to read a passage from the book Happy Life by Divaldo Franco, psychographed by Joanna De Angelis. While you have the resources, cultivate solidarity. You are a social being and need the company of your neighbor in order to achieve the goals that you were reborn for. Solidarity is one of the most useful instruments for success in this attempt. Become useful, be kind, spread goodness, and in return you will never find yourself alone. So let's close our eyes and think in God. And think in the beauty of life, the most important gift that we receive to get the chance to evolve and grow and become better persons. So let's thank God for the opportunity of being here today. Listen and learn in order to achieve this goal of progress. Let's ask God to be in our hearts, in our minds, helping us to understand the teaching of today and helping us to take this message and being able to spread it at our homes, at our work, at our lives. As it said in the initial reading, let's ask God to help us to be the good persons, to help us to spread solidarity and love around us. And maybe we can be the tool to spread love and peace in our world. We also ask the good mentors, the good spirits from this house that enlightened Marcos Diclei during his lecture today, and also give all the blessings that all of us, incarnated and discarnated, that are here today, all the blessings that we need to leave this house in peace and in love. So be it.
Thank you, Joyce, Marcio. Welcome, everyone, to the Toronto Spirit Society. Also, welcome to everyone who are watching us online. If you have any comments or questions throughout the lecture, as always, our digital medium Carlos is there, and he will be happy to reply and share the comments and questions. It is a great source of gratitude for us to be here today, because every time we have a lecture, it actually makes us study. And I feel sometimes if we didn't have those lectures, we wouldn't probably be spending that much of time studying. So I think the first who learn is actually who is here preparing. No one here is a teacher or know more than anyone else. We are all together. And this is actually why it feels so good to see everyone here. Because we are a big family. Out of our blood ties, and that's part of our learning to expand our family beyond blood ties. And Joyce couldn't be more happy in choosing the lesson from the book Happy Life, because he really touches the very topic that we will talk today. If you paid attention on the reading, it spoke about our neighbor, the importance of having someone around us and supporting each other. And when I was, we were, studying the parable of Samaritan, it came to mind a saying. I think it's from Michelangelo that said, I think someone may correct me here. He said, the simplicity is the utmost sophistication. Is that Michelangelo or one of the famous artists of history, right? When we see something simple, that is very sophisticated. It's very hard to get something simple enough. And when you read the parable of the Samaritan, it's such a short parable. It's such a simple story. But every time you read it and you look at it, you see a different nuances. Right? And it's quite impressive. At least that's how it felt when we study it once more. Has anyone read or heard about the parable of Samaritan before? Has anyone? Let's show of hands. Okay, quite a few. Some people probably not. So I hope that during our conversation, a few things will resonate with all of us. And we were also quite impressive because this parable is in the Gospel of Luke, and it is an impressive writing. It's really a beautiful work of art. It's poetry, and we will touch a little bit on that because the essence is the message, is the lesson, but we will see how it has been written. It is quite impressive, and this is the whole gospel, and that's why there's a pearl necklace, because that's how we compare the gospel, right? It's composed of a series of pearls that we need to look at them closely to appreciate the different nuances, the subtleties that sometimes when we pass we don't see it. No wonder Jesus said you have to have eyes to see and ears to listen, because sometimes we don't catch it. And that's why we have the promised consoler, Spiritism, helping us to understand things, because at that time we could not understand those things. Many people couldn't, right? So we couldn't as well. And another learning was actually the fact that, according to Emmanuel, this is in the words of Emmanuel, we never thought about it. He says that Jesus was the first to bring to the world the importance of charity. If you go back to the ancient civilizations, to the Egyptians, to the Greek, to the Romans, you had beautiful and important principles, moral principles, but putting charity as the only way to salvation, Jesus was the first one. And when we look at this parable, he couldn't be more clear on that. It's very, very clear. The interesting thing also with the gospel, the texts and the parables, is that it feels like a series of boxes. One, that those in Brazil we have that joke when you go to a birthday party, you have a big box and the person opens the big box and there's a small one, and they open the small one, there's a smaller until you get to the present, right? So the gospel feels like that. And if you look at the parable of the Samaritan, or the Good Samaritan as we know it, it is contained within another bigger story, which is a dialogue with the Pharisee, right? The Pharisee was trying to trick Jesus, as we saw in so many passages. But that passage is also within a bigger story, which is the journey from Jesus to Jerusalem. And we all know how that story ends. So it's a series of jewels and pearls contained into bigger boxes, right? Or bigger gifts, if you want to see it that way. So what we're going to do today is specifically look at that parable. And we are going to discuss a few topics that bring us so many different teachings for us that are very relevant to our present days. Okay? It's also a reminder that once more, I am the only thing between your lunch and yourselves. So we have a lunch and learn today. We invite everyone who are here to stay if you can. It's a great way to spend some time together and support the TSS as well. I'm sorry to those online that we don't have a technology yet to ship the food to you. You have to be here, and it's an exclusive food that you don't find anywhere else in the world. No pressure. So we are going to be short, so don't fear the size of the book that I just pulled here, because the parable is short, okay? But we decided to read the parable so we can see the words, and then we go back and we study it together, okay? But fear not. Fear not. So we are going to the book of Luke, right? That's where the parable is, and we are going to look at the chapter 10, I think 25, close to 37. Now we will go to 37. So as we said, this parable was introduced by Jesus when he was in a group of people and he was teaching. And usually the teachers sit and everyone sits to listen to the teachings. And then all of a sudden, one of the Pharisees stood up. And the Pharisees were those who were also considered doctors of the laws of the Jewish. They were the ones preaching at the temples, right? So they were the authorities of Judaism at that time, who were always trying to trick Jesus and make Jesus say something wrong so they could be punished. He could be punished or stoned to death, right? They were always trying to trick him. So on one occasion, an expert of the law stood up to test Jesus. And he said, "Teacher," always very respectful, right? "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" That was his question to Jesus. And then see how smart was Jesus and how he saw where that gentleman was going to. Instead of simply giving him an answer, because he was a doctor of the law, he knew very well the answer, Jesus replied with another question. He didn't give the answer. He said, "What is written in the law that you know so well?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it? How do you understand?" And then the doctor of the law replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul and all your mind, and all your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself." Back to the text that Joyce read, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said, "You answered correctly. Do this and you will live." Isn't that strange that Jesus told him, "Do this and you will live"? Was he dead? He wasn't dead, right? He was alive. So that's one thing that we are going to check a little bit later, right? But the man wanted to justify himself. So he realized that Jesus caught his intention, right? So trying to look that he was really trying to learn, he asked it again, "And who is my neighbor?" Because the test wasn't very clear, so the Jewish priests, they have this question mark about who is the neighbor, because for them maybe the neighbor is really those other Jewish, right? Or we could say here in the Spiritism, our neighbor is the Spiritists, so we leave everybody else outside. There was something like that. So he asked Jesus again another tricky question, and Jesus, noticing that he needed more information, he brought the parable of the Samaritan. As he always did, he used to tell stories to explain things to people in a way that you can't not get this with such a clear story, right? So Jesus said, in reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, two different cities, when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and they went away, leaving the man half dead. Half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man on the floor, like completely left, almost naked and hurt, he passed by the other side. Look at the man, just passed by the other side. Maybe he was in a hurry, who knows. After, so too passed a Levite, or Levite, don't know how to pronounce that properly. So a Levite, I think, was someone who assisted the priests, right? So both of them were authorities of the Judaism. When also he came to the place where he saw the man, he passed by the other side. So none of them stopped to help the man. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, we don't know if he's going up or down, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when we saw the man, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. At that time, oil and wine were like our first aid kits, right? Because the wine was a kind of antiseptic, and the oil was something that could help to heal, right? Then he put a man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, to a hotel, and took care of him. The next day took out 2 denarii, don't know, $50, $100, took some money, and gave to the innkeeper, to the man of the hotel, to pay for his expenses, and said, "Look after him, and when I return from my trip, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Incredible, huh? Other than helping the man with his wounds, put on the donkey, took him to a hotel, pay for the expenses, give him some food, and give him a room, and here's some extra, right? And then he said, "I'm going away, but I'm going to come back. And when I come back, if you spend any more money with him, if he ate more, or if we need a few more days, I'm going to pay you back." He did whatever it took to take care of the man, right? He had no idea who that man is. And then, that's the end of the story. Short. He looked at the doctor of the law once more and said, "Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor of the man who fell in the hands of the robbers?" Who was the neighbor? The expert of the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do it likewise." Go and do the same. So how do I save myself? How do I prepare myself for the eternal life? That's what you got to do. Crystal clear, right? So there's a lot of things here that are important, and sometimes we don't pay attention, and that's why we would like to deep dive in the next few minutes. I think I missed my little cartoon here. Now, this is one of the most expressive examples of Jesus about charity, right? About the golden rule. What's the golden rule that Jesus taught us? Do to others what we would like others do unto us, right? So see that man, he did everything. He really put himself in the shoes of the man who was attacked by the robbers. In any moment, we didn't hear that he asked, "Who are you? Are you Jewish? Are you a Samaritan? Let me see, is he black? Is he white? Is he Chinese? Is he Brazilian? Is he Spiritist, Catholic?" He just helped no matter what. No conditions at all. Right? Is he drunk? Because when we see people on the floor, on the road, on the ground, we say, that's a drug addict. That's a drunk. It's a lazy person. He didn't say anything. I don't care the circumstances. I'm going to help him. You couldn't be more clear on that. Everything else is irrelevant. Like Divaldo Franco, if one of you watched the TV show in Brazil who showed all the work from Divaldo, who is one of the greatest mediums and propagators of Spiritism. He has a marvelous charitable work in Brazil, and the reporter was with the man who used to go to the house of the people to give them help, right? Food and doctor assistance and etc. And he had a questionnaire, right? Your name, where you live, and etc. to make sure the help comes to that family. And the reporter said, "You don't have religion here on this form." He said, "Yeah, so why not?" It doesn't matter. We are here to help anyone because everyone are at the end part of our families. So religion is irrelevant. We help Protestants, we help Catholics, we help Spiritists, atheists, it doesn't matter. That's what we see in this story. That in itself is a big lesson for us, right? Spiritists. It's not because we are spiritists that we are better than anyone else. And we got to be careful also not to limit charity to our circle. We'll talk more about this later. He didn't say, I wonder if this man can pay me back, because I'm putting a lot of money. I'm paying the hotel, I'm leaving some extra money. Can he pay me back? And we are very fast to do those math in our brains, right? He didn't think about anything. That's unconditional love. You do without expecting anything back. Very expressive. And then the other aspect is the Samaritan doesn't limit himself to emotions. If you remember the story, he saw the man and he took pity on him. How many times we see someone on the street and we say, "Oh, that's so sad." We stop there and we pass. Does that help? It doesn't. If that person is hungry, he or she continues hungry. Our pity is not going to feed the person. If that person is hurt, that doesn't help. If you see an accident, "Oh, that was pretty bad. That's so bad. I feel so sorry for that family." Let's pick up and call 911. Let's stop. Let's do something about it, right? Our sentiments are not enough. We gotta do more, and that's what this man did. Maybe the priests and the Levite did that, right? "Oh, that's bad. But I don't know that man. Maybe there are other robbers coming. I'm running out of here." Right? He forgot about himself. He forgot about any dangers. Who knows what that traveler, the Samaritan, had to do? Maybe he had a business to attend. He was traveling through a dangerous road because of what happened with the man. He stopped everything he was doing. He took care of the man, and then he proceeded his trip. Right? And sometimes we say, "Well, I'm too busy to stop and look at this right now. I have to go and I have a work to do. I have time." Unconditional help. Who knows, he had enough money, right? So, "Oh, I don't have enough money." And Jesus gave many, many examples that the little we can give to others, it is a big thing, right? Because no one is... usually most of us are not millionaires, so we don't have things to spare. And there are many stories of people who give all they had for the others. Very difficult to do because we are still very attached. But this is the role model. This is the example. This is the way to go. Hence the clear story. So the man felt something for the other. He acted. He took actions. He helped and he passed. He left it behind. He moved on. You don't see him make sure when he wakes up that it is Marcos Diclei who helped him. He didn't say that. "My name is Bob or Brian or whatever it is." He just helped and passed. Right? And Emmanuel and Chico Xavier tell us that a lot. Help and forget. Instead of help and say, "Hey, I'm helping. Are you seeing, Anna? I'm helping here." Because of what? Because of pride is so big. And no wonder this parable, if you look at the gospel according to Spiritism, this parable, the chapter about charity, comes after so many other important chapters. And one of the chapters, don't let your right hand or your left hand know what your right hand do. If you want to do charity, do quietly, right? It talks about charity after the chapter that says, there are many dwellings in my Father's house, saying that no one can see the kingdom of God if we're not reborn again. Chapters that help us to remind that we are immortal beings. And the possessions that we have and the social positions that we have are like cotton candy. You put in your mouth, they disappear. They are temporary because we are immortal beings. So this Samaritan, he clearly had that mindset. I'm here, that man is there, it's my opportunity to help him. I don't care about anybody, anything else. Right? So Allan Kardec was brilliant when he put that together in such a sequence. Right? And Jesus, with this story, it's a masterpiece to answer that man fully. And it's still very relevant to us. He didn't demand anything, right? He didn't demand gratitude. He just helped it because he wanted to help. Emmanuel also talks about something very important. If this man actually asked something back, if the Samaritan asked anything back, he would be in danger of committing something that Emmanuel called half good. And I felt that's so interesting. Half good is when you help someone, but you don't help fully. Because as you help, you also hurt. Because you can help someone humiliating. You can help someone throwing on that person's face, right? Saying, you owe me. How many times, right? Maybe we did that to someone, or someone did that to us. Hey, I'm lending you this, you owe me now, Raquel. It's like you're putting a big weight on someone's shoulders. Say, wow, I need to pay that back now. Can I really do that? Or, hey, I'm doing this, but make sure you post on Facebook and let people know that we went together. Sometimes we post ourselves, right? Hey, here I am doing this. But sometimes I say, you know what? It doesn't look good that I post on my page, so can you just post and say that I helped? So we start to put that's half good. Or when you go to the street, when you see a beggar or a homeless person, instead of discreetly giving money or talking to that person, do you need anything? You just throw the money on the face of the person. Right? It's humiliating. It is humiliating. That's half good. That's not what the Samaritan did. He helped fully, as he wanted someone to do through him. That's quite impressive. Now, one of the key things that many of us don't know is why the Samaritan? Why did Jesus use the Samaritan and not anyone else to help? That is a crucial point. Because if you think about the priest and the Levite, they were authorities of the law. They knew the law. Like us, the Spiritists, who know the Spiritist, who know the gospel. Right? So they had an obligation to act correctly because they know. Now the Samaritans, because of historical reasons, and I'm going to extend because of time, they were considered by the Jewish people as sinners. Despicable people. Don't even go there. We don't go to their cities. We don't talk to them. Right? That's where they sin. So the Jewish people ignored them completely because they didn't follow the Jewish law. And Jesus, to answer the doctor of the law, a Pharisee, who, let's say, led the temple of the Jewish, he answers the question how to conquer eternal life, right? By saying, do what the Samaritan did. Can you imagine the impact on that man listening to that? It's a big deal. Here is a Levite and a priest like you. He didn't do nothing. But here is a despicable Samaritan, in your point of view. He did what you should do what he did. It's a big impact, right? In a simple story, but very, very impactful. So the Samaritan were like the Protestants at that time. So the Jewish didn't consider them, didn't regard them at all. And the Samaritan is the role model. If you want to save yourself, right, be like the Samaritan. So that's one important point for us already. Now the other subtlety is why he talks about the trip from Jerusalem to Jericho. And Danielle, last week we were talking about the Beatitudes, right? And we discussed that Jesus didn't lose a second of his existence. Everything he did was intentional. Every word, every example had something behind it. Nothing was, let's pick a city, Ottawa. No, he didn't do like that. Right? He picked a man who was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. There's so many things here that's incredible. He was going down, right? He was going down. The man was traveling down from Jerusalem to Jericho. If you think only from a geographical perspective, Jerusalem is about 700 meters above sea level, and Jericho, I didn't know that, is the lowest, in terms of altitude, it's the lowest city in the world, 400 meters below sea level. So it's going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. That makes sense because of the geographical aspects. But that's actually not what Jesus meant. Because according to Jewish tradition, Jerusalem is the top of the world. And even if we are on the Mount Everest, you guys know the Mount Everest, right? The highest mountain or peak in the world. And if you say, I'm going to Jerusalem, you have to say, I'm going up to Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem is higher than the Everest. Not in a geographical manner, but in a spiritual manner. Because it is the holy city of the Jewish, the Christians, the Armenian, the Muslims. I didn't know that as well. It's the whole city. So to go to Jerusalem, you go up. It's very interesting. And Jerusalem is a symbol of our spiritual enlightenment. To go to Jerusalem, it means we are moving ahead with our, our spiritual transformation to reach the perfection, right? So we are going up. So when it say that the man was going down, it means that he was making the opposite journey from Jerusalem to Jericho. And that's where, when we distance ourselves from God, how many times we do that? We do that every day sometimes. Every time that we act or think or do anything against the law of nature or the law of God, we are distancing ourselves from God, from our journey, from the spiritual commitment that we made before we reincarnated. Right? For example, every time I am rude with someone, I am aparting from God, from the law of nature. And what happened? We started to lower our vibrations in our language, right? We start to think negatively. We lose our temper, we feel anger, our pride comes up, so we start to go down. Right? So it's really a symbol. And the man fell in the hands of the robbers, which is also a symbol. That hands falling in the hands of the robbers is, as we go down with our lower vibrations, with our behaviors, selfishness and pride, right? What happened? We change our mind, our thoughts, and we had several lectures about this before. When I vibrate negatively, on a negative or lower level, what happens? We attract higher vibrations, right? When we vibrate bad, we attract higher vibrations. Okay, you guys are awake. Yeah, if we vibrate higher, if we pray, we elevate, we attract higher vibrations. If we vibrate in lower ranges, we attract negativity. And that's what happened. So when that man fell in the hands of the robbers, it's really our vices that came, the surface, that comes up. If I'm angry, then it comes my selfish. Then who do we think you are talking to me that way? And start coming out. And when we do that immediately, we attract the incarnate and the discarnate, who also vibrate on the same. Those are the robbers. And it just adds up. So that traveler was someone who actually went to the opposite direction and felt in depression, right? Or on his vices, or whatever it is. It's a symbol, right? That's very important for us to understand. That's why he picked Jerusalem to Jericho and the figure of the robbers, right? Then this man was already on the ground. He had fallen already, right? And from that point, he can only turn around and start going back into his journey. But how about the priest and the Levite? He said in the text they were going down the same road. Isn't that interesting? He knew the law. He knew better maybe than the man who was on the floor. But Jesus said they were going down the same road, which means they knew everything, but they were going down into the road maybe of selfishness and pride, sectarism. I see that man, I don't know him, he's not from my church, from my Spiritist center. Let him be. So they hadn't fallen yet, right? But they were on the path to hit the bottom, because every one of us one day will hit the bottom to be able to turn around. And when we hit the bottom, when we fall, the pain comes to help us to see what we are doing wrong. And that's the thing, right? Blessed are the afflicted. That was exactly what we saw last week here. Why blessed are the afflicted? Because if we don't think about this with immortal eyes, we think that blessed, the afflicted are just the miserable. When we're just suffering, what's the point? But if we see ourselves as immortal beings, we understand that the suffering is to remind us of something. Remind us that we are distancing ourselves from God. It's like our body. Why do we have pain? Pain is a blessing because it tells us that something is wrong. Put your hand in the fire. It's going to hurt to tell you, hey, you're going to lose your hand. Take it out of the fire immediately. Right? You don't even think. It's immediate. If you don't feel pain, there's something wrong. But you're going to lose your hands. If your tooth hurts, hey, there's something wrong with your tooth here. It's rotting in your mouth and you're going to lose it. So it is a blessing. It's an alert mechanism. And the emotional pain and the challenge that we go in life, they are there only to remind us that we are going the right direction. And we have the expectations of living a life with no pain, with no suffering. That is very childish of us. We all want to be happy at all times. It's not going to happen because we are learning. Today we are going the right direction. Tomorrow we take a detour. And the pain comes, hey, you're going the right direction, wrong direction, turn it around. That's how we go. That's life. So it is a blessing. And the pain will only go away when we actually hit that button, the rock bottom, and say, I understand what I'm doing wrong, and I'm going to change right now. This is a big, big lesson for us at this point. So the Levite and the priest, they were still going down. As we see some politicians, right? We see news from Brazil and all the stuff that happened. Nothing happened with those guys. Wait, they are still going down. But they will fall. Maybe when they discarnate, so be it. Right? But we need to be worrying about ourselves, not about themselves. Right? And then when it comes to the Samaritan, what did he say about the Samaritan? Did he say the Samaritan was going down? No. Did he say the Samaritan was going up? So it doesn't matter. He says, as he traveled, doesn't matter where the Samaritan was going. If you're going up, if you're going down, what matters is that he saw the man, he acted, and he did the right thing. He could have done that as he went down, yeah. He could done that as he went up. Yeah, so are we. Right? Every moment is a moment that we can turn around and make the right choice. That's why divine justice has a key component, which is love. Because if we use the justice from the Old Testament, it is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But Jesus brought love. And we can never say to someone, you are going through this because this happened in your past life. And because of that, this is what's going to happen. Nope. There are endless possibilities. If you are suffering today, there are endless possibilities. That suffering may happen, may end today, may end tomorrow, may end 10 years from now. It only depends on us. It depends on our attitude. So for that Samaritan, let's assume that he was going down. He took an action that maybe helped him to turn it around. Because when we do something good and positive, we bring to ourselves positive companions. And that may make all the difference. So it doesn't matter if you're going down. It's just a matter of making the right choices. Isn't that interesting and beautiful as well? It's not because we are going down that we are a lost cause. There are no lost causes for God. He loves all of us. Those who are going up, those who are going down, because we learn through Spiritism that everyone will go up. Everyone will reach the perfection. Right? That's the certainty that we all have. I won't extend here because of the time. As we said, the parable of the Samaritan is within the big box of the journey from Jesus to Jerusalem. When he invites the disciples, and forgive me for the Portuguese here, but he invites the disciples to go to Jerusalem. And when he gets to Jerusalem, what happened? He is crucified. Right? So the whole text is a symbol of the ascension to Jerusalem. Right? As if we were walking through the steps of a temple to Jerusalem, to our spiritual enlightenment. Right? And every chapter has a theme. The interesting thing is the text actually is a mirror text, because you have other chapters that repeat the same themes in a decent order, as if we were going up to Jerusalem and then coming back down. For example, if you look here, the prayer, the chapter 4, or it's not the chapter, but the section 4, the theme number 4 is when Jesus teaches the Lord's Prayer. And then there's another chapter with the same theme of prayer, but he doesn't repeat the Lord's Prayer, obviously, but he explained the importance of prayer and the effectiveness of prayer coming down. And then this is from one of Haroldo's Dutra Dias' book, and I was puzzled about, well, why you go up and then you go down? It doesn't make sense. And I was looking at the internet, found a video that he says, we can only effectively go up in our moral evolution if we go down. I said, what? Yeah, because we can go up if we don't go down to help the others that are making their journey up as well. It would be very selfish of us. I am up, I don't care about anyone else. So those who reach up go down to help the others. Think about Jesus. He didn't need to come, but he came. So this text it's really a marvelous work. And we may see ourselves in this story. We may see ourselves as someone who is fallen today, going through so many hardships, waiting for someone to give us a hand, or maybe we already have someone giving us a hand, and maybe we are just ignoring for whatever reason that help. Or maybe we'll see ourselves as the priest or the Levite who see an opportunity to help and we disregard because It's not for someone from our family. It's not someone from our religion. It's not someone from our nationality. It's not someone from my color, whatever it is. Or we may be like the Samaritan, who see an opportunity to help and we jump to help. We don't want to say, but every single one of us make a self-analysis here. Or maybe we see ourselves in all these roles every day. There is a day that I help. There are days that I hesitate and I don't. There are days that I am the falling one. There are days that I am the one lifting someone. That is life. And we go through that process every day, every moment. It's just important that we are conscious of it and we do a self-analysis. Like St. Augustine in the Spiritist book, right? 919a. He says at the end of every day, look at your day and let's think about which roles did I play today. Were we the Samaritan, or were we the priest or the Levite, or were we the falling person? And if we were the falling person, were we humble enough to accept help? Or we said, no, I don't need anything, Erica, I'm good. We do that a lot, right? No, I'm good. And the opportunity is there for us, but our pride makes us to refuse the blessing. So it's a great analysis for every single one to do. And this is very real to us, right? This is a very ancient, no one dresses up like that. If we think nowadays, it happens every day. And it's a matter of choice. Are we putting into practice or not? We do have a few doctors here. And think about a prescription. You go to the doctor and say, well, you got to take this 3 times a day. Go home. If you just put it in our pocket, leave it there, am I going to feel better? We are not. It's a waste of time. What do we need to do? Go get the medicine. Take the medicine. So when we look at the gospel, the teachings of Jesus, it's like a prescription. If we don't put it into practice, there's no effect. And then we'll keep on that self-pity cycle. Oh, my life is like that and nothing changes. Yeah, you're not taking your prescription. Swallow that Buckley's commercial. It's not a commercial. Tastes horrible, but it works. Right? Sometimes when Jesus said to the priest, do as the Samaritan did, that's probably what he thought. It tastes horrible, but it works. Right? We see that on TV every day. How many good Samaritans we have around, right? Helping everyday lives. But there is one challenge that we are often blinded by our selfishness and our pride. We have fallen people inside our homes every day. Every day. We may have a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife or a partner, or our parents, or our in-laws, or someone who is living with us for whatever reason. What if they are someone like the man falling on the road because they went down and they hit the rock bottom? Are we only looking to help those that makes the TV news because we want to post on Facebook, I helped that man. You see that fire, that car on 401? I stopped my car and went there to help. Or how about your wife? And your husband? Or your daughter? Oh, no one sees that. So that's a big analysis for us, right? Because we are going against the law of God. Make sure your left hand doesn't know what your right hand do. That's why this chart is still very relevant and we use this a couple times, right? Charity is something that must happen from the inside and out. Remember what the doctor of the law said? Love your God above everything. Love your neighbor as yourself. If we don't love ourselves, how are we going to love our neighbors? If we hate ourselves, I can't love my neighbor, but I'm going to hate my neighbor. Love our imperfections, our challenges, accept who we are. And start with our family. That's why we are meant to live in a family. We incarnate in a family to learn to love those who are around us, a small group of people. And once we learn that, we can expand. We are not meant to live selfishly, don't get me wrong here, right? By saying, I only care about my family. No, but it's a stepping process, right? We can save the world and have expectations to be a Jesus Christ who leads and look after an entire planet, or maybe more than one, if we cannot even look up for ourselves or the handful of people who live in our homes. That's another side of our pride, because we want the big things, right? And Jesus also said, when you deliver on the little things that God entrusts us, God gives us bigger things. It's the natural law. So when we think about Samaritan and charity, we often forget. It's a big reminder for us to look in our homes. That's the place to start. That's the first workshop for us. And Chico Xavier and André Luiz in the book Spiritist Conduct, they say, treat your family members as you treat your guests. Isn't that very interesting? You come someone visiting, we take care of our home, you put the best plates, the best seat, best food. Oh, please have a seat here. Is the air good enough for you? Everything, right? And for our family members, we don't give them sometimes even 10% of that treatment. So if you really want to practice what we have learned, let's treat our family members as we treat our guests. And I'm going to wrap up with this, which is very close to what we just said. If you're not able to tolerate, to understand, bless, or be useful to the people in our homes, how can we fulfill our ideals and our spiritual commitments that we assumed up there in the spiritual realm? There's no way. We got to start with our families. Let's not fool ourselves. And when we join the Spiritism, we are always eager. Oh, that's so beautiful. I understand now. I want to help. And we want to help everyone else, but we forget about ourselves and our families. And it takes a while for us on that journey. Then we hit the rock bottom and say, oops, I think I'm going the right direction. Let me step back a little bit. And that's the invitation for Jesus with this simple but so meaningful parable of the Samaritan. And I hope that this message brings every single one of us a little takeaway for our day-to-days, because it's so important, right? It's there on the chapter 15 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. There are a couple pages of explanations. So we encourage everyone in your next Gospel home, maybe take a look at the parable of the Samaritan. Thanks so much for your attention. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Brother.
Very much for it. We do have a few minutes for questions. If there is anyone in the internet with a question, please let us know, and Mark Carlos will read it for us. Or any comment as well is welcome.
No questions there.
Was that clear? Come on.
There are pancakes coming.
Anyone from the internet? No? So Mark, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate. So I'm gonna thank you for you watching us through the internet. We're gonna go now for our passes. We invite you to close your session with a prayer at home. And here, for those who's here, we're gonna start to prepare for the passes.